all of you know, we have a critical shortage of scholars of Islam in the West. Close to a quarter of humanity is Muslim, and yet less than 10% of religion and theology departments across North America have a single specialist in Islamic studies. The American Academy of Religion reports that in the 1970s, there were only about a dozen scholars of Islamic studies in all of North America. In 2004, that number rose to about 130, and today we're sitting at about 500. Now that number, mashallah, sounds very encouraging, except when you consider it in comparison to scholars who study other religious traditions. Scholars of Islamic studies make up only 3.5% of all members of the American Academy of Religion. This is not even to start to talk about Shi'ism. As Professor Lawson said right away in his keynote address, when he was in university, Shi'ism was taught as the wrong version of Islam. That actually is a tradition that had gone on for very many centuries. One of the first introductions that the West had to Shi'ism was by the 13th century medieval crusader Jacques de Vitry. And he wrote in his famous encyclopedic Latin work, Oriental and Occidental History, that the Shi'as believed that Ali was an outstanding prophet to whom God had spoken in a far more intimate manner than he had to Muhammad. And Ali and his disciples all criticized Muhammad and slandered him. Obviously, Shia studies in the West was not off to a good start. In fact, things have not changed as much as we'd like even today. All of you have heard of Professor Muhammad Ali Amir Moazi, one of the most prominent scholars of Shi'ism today in France. He wrote La Religion discrète, and in that he writes that, according to his account, there are only about 30 scholars in the Western world who specialize on Shi'ism. We have more than that number of people in this room right now. And we're very, very fortunate that 8 of these scholars spoke to us today with such wisdom. So while they were speaking, I wrote a poem about the knowledge they were giving us, and I want to share that with you right now. So this is dedicated to all of our speakers. In these hallowed halls, wisdom's debut, philosophers gathered, knowledge grew, hosted by the Shia Research Institute, so grand, and U of T's philosophy department hand in hand. Professor Todd Lawson gave the keynote with flair, setting the stage with scholarly care, discussing Ibn Arabi's broad mystical range, the Shia tradition, and their profound exchange. He told of the destruction of Baghdad and the podium, how Akbarism was subject to takfir and odium. Like the phoenix emerging from the fire, in post-Mongol times it flew even higher. Professor Zargar of the crisis of oneness did speak, and of Safavid times, heresy at its peak. Between Sufi and Sharia, he unraveled the tension of Zahir and Batin for our comprehension. Dr. Zaidi presented on Shi'i ontology's part, exploring ancient ties with scholarly heart. From Pythagorean hermetic a wisdom so bright, to the brethren of purity's philosophical light. Dr. Mukhtar Ali, after lunch, came next, with Sayyid Haydar Amuli's intricate text, a compendium of mysteries, Sufism and thought, where reason, revelation, and mystics are caught. My dear Dr. Amin John then took the stage. Beyond sectarian walls, his research did engage. Sayyid Haydar and Al-Bursi's pre-Safavid hue were Akbarian sources for his just the Jew. Dr. Tasbihi brought poetic delight, with Shabistari's garden a mystical sight. Lahiji's commentary Akbarian in tone. In Persian Sufi poetry, the seeds were sown. Professor Sajjad explored the Andalusian's technique. His metaphysics remain amidst modern Shi'i critique. From the Qajar period till now, countless hints do exist. In Shi'i thought, Ibn Arabi's ideas persist. Some of you may say Shafique Virani's no bard, but trust me, writing these verses is hard. If you think that my poetry's absurd, then you find for Rizvi a rhyming word. Next, Dr. Ahmed spoke of Khomeini's zeal. Ibn Arabi's shadow, his voice, his appeal. From Al-Wali Al-Faqih to the Kamil Insan, of Gorbachev Dawa he spoke. Mashallah, Mary John. Thus we end this scholarly spree with insights deep from sea to sea. Thank you to all of you who spoke with insight, shedding on Ibn Arabi a scholarly light. On behalf of the Shi'a Research Institute and U of T, I thank our guests, and I'm sure you'll agree. We part with knowledge, hearts aglow, till we meet again in the scholarly flow. No Ibn al-Farid or Shabistri nor Ghalib am I. That's something Shafique will not deny. So I must bid goodbye to all of you. Ma'as salama, Khuda Hafiz, and adieu.